Testing, 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 1, 2. Testing, 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 1, 2. Okay, as long as it stays on. Everyone, here we go. Good evening. What a wonderful turnout. And so you're all expected to show up for worship on Sunday now, though, right? Anyways, I'm just trying to catch my breath for a moment. It's been like a crazy last hour. We had about 18 technical failures, and I don't have my tablet with me because I didn't get a chance to go home for supper. And so I'm trying to do it off my phone. So anyways, it's less about my talking and more about some of the images that I'm going to show you tonight. But anyways, it's so great to have you all out here. I'm humbled at the interest. Hope I don't disappoint. If you're looking for some, amazing insight to, the culture and the sociology of Portugal and Spain, well, I'm definitely going to let you down there. I'm going to comment on sort of what I experienced, and we'll see how it goes. But normally a 55 plus club, we start off with a bit of a prayer, and so let us do that at this time. Wondrous and gracious Creator, we thank you so much for all the blessings that's bestowed upon us. The ability to be able to gather like this as a community, to share an experience when we come together and worship, that we can freely and without any anxiety gather in the name of our faith in this space. We're just so blessed, and we need to keep in mind people and places around this world that don't have that and aren't afforded that luxury. And so we thank you for that. We thank you for this gathering and these people. And so we ask you to bless us at this time, that your Spirit may move through us, and that somewhere in this, some of your wisdom may pass on. And in Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, so it doesn't sound like the mic's kicked out at all. Like that's a victory right there so far. So anyways, here to present some things that happened on my sabbatical, or part of it anyways. Part that everyone seems to be interested in is the Camino. And right there in that image, that's a picture of the cathedral in Santiago de Compostela. But before I get into that, a little bit around what's expected as far as a sabbatical. So every minister has the opportunity, has the right to go on a sabbatical every 5 years. And this is actually like the 8th year of mine, and so I was, I'd had it at the back of my mind, like, will I, should I, take a sabbatical? And I never knew what I was going to do. Really sort of stumped me. I was having so much fun with my ministry, and things are busy, and it was just year after year after year. And then finally, Brother Craig Miller, who is here tonight, I sort of realized last year that he was off on his sabbatical, and it was the second one he had taken since I'd been here. And so, like, Craig's had 2. You know what? Maybe I should have a turn. And so again came the challenge about, what to do. And so in the United Church of Canada, the sabbatical expectations is that there's sort of like a three dimensions to it. Is that there's an educational piece, there's a spiritual growth piece, and then of course, an opportunity for Sabbath. And so, when deciding, how I was going to do this, it really came up the idea of the Camino. And so I know several people in my wider church circles that have done it, and had some great conversations. There's other people that I've met. I've been kind of like to a couple of presentations like this where someone shared their experience, and I thought, hey, that sounds really cool. And it definitely fits into the education and spiritual growth. And so, here's something for me to do. And so, okay, I'm going to take a sabbatical. And so that was the decision. So, I don't know what I've got left. So, I chose the Camino de Santiago. And so, first things you might be wondering, what is the significance of the Camino? Well, it's a pilgrimage that ultimately ends up in the top left corner there. Actually, there's supposed to be a pointer on this. No, that's not it. How's that? Oh, there it is. Can you see that? There it goes. So that's Santiago there. That's sort of the end point. And so Camino, and you can see there's many different routes that you can take. But anyways, the key thing about Santiago de Compostela is that it's the burial place, or it's believed to be the burial place of St. James. And so, James, one of the first original four disciples. Well, after the crucifixion of Jesus and the disciples go on to start the early church, St. James was really significant in bringing Christianity, the good news of Jesus Christ, to Spain, sort of this whole part of the world, possibly somewhat into what's now Portugal. And so, he was really the father of the church in Spain. So anyways, later when James is killed in Jerusalem, and the James disciples take his body and take a ship over into Spain, and then it's sort of like the story gets lost there. They know that James gets buried somewhere along with two of his disciples, but it kind of like the story stops there. And then about several hundred years later, a shepherd goes out and finds these markings in a field of some of these graves, and it's a sort of like a main grave with like two satellite ones. And so anyways, the authorities at the time determined that this spot at Santiago is the birth or the burial place of James. And so they then begin to build great cathedral, and actually the first main cathedral is established in about the 9th century. And so from that point on, people in the whole area, everything from southern France to Portugal, and then of course across Spain, it just becomes a regular rite of passage. People are going to this burial place, the Camino de Compostela, as a pilgrimage. And so like again, like I said, this started about in the 9th century. And so to this day, it's still a real, like a key piece. Like most Catholics, and by the way, everybody in this area is Catholic. I saw a gazillion cathedrals in my travels, and not one Protestant church, because it just doesn't exist. Everyone's Catholic, and everyone does the Camino at some point in its life. And so last year in 2023, 493,000 people from around the world got their Compostela, which basically means is that to qualify for Compostela, you've got to walk at least 100 kilometers. And so yeah, the whole pilgrimage Camino thing is a big deal, in this part of the world and throughout the world. And in my travels, I met so many people from so many different places. Anyways, what else did I want to tell you? Oh, so why did I choose the Portugal route? So sort of the number one main route is the one that's considered, or the most popular is the one that starts in Saint-Jean in France. And it's over 800 kilometers long. And so, I mean, it being the most popular, I mean, he considered it, but I wanted to do a whole Camino. I didn't, like, you can start anywhere along the route, and people do, but I kind of wanted to start at the beginning. And so the route from Lisbon through Portugal, you know, it was just over, I read things, 620, 630 kilometers. You know, I figured that's something I could accomplish in 5 weeks. It would be a whole Camino. And then the whole idea, just going up the whole western coastline along the Atlantic Ocean just seemed really appealing. So I chose to go the Portuguese route. All right. So what happened next? Here's this, look at this naive fool that just landed in Lisbon, and I'm going to put some background why I said those words. So on June 1st, I left from Winnipeg Airport, then landing in Lisbon at 11 a.m. on June 2nd. It was an overnighter flight. Virtually no sleep. Didn't get a lot of sleep the night before. Didn't get a lot of sleep on the plane. Super tired, but you know, landed in the airport. One of the first thing it did was, I mean, I knew my phone was going to be a big deal. It was going to be everything to me, you know, as far as, you know, maps and these kind of things, and just contact with the world. So I got totally ripped off at a kiosk for getting a new SIM card so it would work in Europe. I'm with TELUS, and it costs $16 a day to roam around the world, so I wasn't going to pay $16 a day. So I got a SIM card. Actually, I spent 50 euros, but that was actually, I found it later, that was way too much, and then the guy didn't even give me the plan I wanted. But anyways, it worked. I got, the stupid, you know, tourist from Canada. But anyways, my phone worked, and that was ideal. So I set off from the airport. That was just another sign in Lisboa, is how they refer to it in Portugal. So I start heading south down the street. So the beginning of the Portuguese route of the Camino starts at the Cathedral of Lisbon Cathedral, and it was 7 kilometers south of the airport. Now, I don't know if you noticed from the map I showed, it's actually the normal, like, south-north, so I'm actually heading in the wrong direction to start off to go to Santiago, but I was going to do a whole pilgrimage, so I got to go to the starting point. So I got to walk south before I can go north. And so one of the first things I really noticed is, like, the walks, and this is very much like a Roman influence, and we're talking about, like, Jesus time, a Roman influence. And everywhere you go in Portugal and Spain, you see these anywhere from about 2 to 4 inch, like, square rocks, you know, with sand in between, and that's often the roads are made of this, but there also you see asphalt, and especially in higher traffic ones, but sidewalks are always this, and I really learned to hate this stuff. Because they're individual stones and they're very uneven, and then so, like, the face is different, and so all the time your foot's getting moved in different areas, and it actually causes foot fatigue after, you know, significant time. And so, yeah, I was never really looking forward to that. In fact, I got to the point where I'd later on where I'd actually walk, like, on the little curb stuff because it was flatter and smoother. But anyways, as I'm heading down this walk, well, there's some things, like when I packed my bag, there's a table out there with a bunch of the stuff, and I saw a few people picking up my pack, and that it was, you know, it's all, I mean, I'm carrying everything for the entire route, and weight is your enemy, but you also need what you need for 5 weeks. And so I did a dry weighing of my pack, was around 14 pounds. And but that was no food, no water, like, and then even some of your things, like, that you need that are heavy but you can't take on a plane, like you know, sunscreen, toothpaste, you know, like a variety of these kind of toiletries and stuff like that, which are actually quite heavy. And so if you got a chance to pick up my backpack, it's about 20 pounds. That was sort of average. If you needed to add extra food or water, it was maybe even 2 to 4 pounds heavier than that. So feel free to try it on. So anyways, I go into this, so I guess I got to back up. So when I did my research and looking, what we're going to do, I'm going to be in Portugal and I'm going to be in Spain, where they speak Portuguese and they speak Spanish. And so again, I don't know if I can learn one language or anything one language, not yet learning two. And so I did a little research, and so I found that being able to speak Spanish in Portugal is more effective than trying to speak Portuguese in Spain. And so, okay, I actually downloaded the handy-dandy little Babbel app, and for a few, I think it was about 4 months before, I'm trying to practice, I'm trying to work. Disaster. At this point in my life, I cannot learn a new language. Like, it was awful. I couldn't retain anything. But anyways, learned a little bit of Spanish. So I'm going down, it's actually not far down from this spot on the walk. I go into a pharmacy to get those things like sunscreen, because this particular day, I think it was 25 and sunny. I'm going to be in the sun all the time. So I pick up a couple items in the pharmacy, and I go, gracias, afterwards. And the pharmacist just, no! And I got scolded. He said, in Portugal, you say obrigado, not gracias. Gracias is Spanish. And I'm just like, oh, here we go. Like, most of my Camino is in Portugal, and I learned this much Spanish. I know zero Portuguese. So anyways, I kind of learned throughout the route, if you just stand there like looking like an idiot, they finally figure out what you want. So, the blank stare is universal language. So anyway, wrong way. I gotta get moving through these slides because there's a lot of them. So I get 7 kilometers down the road, and so first I come across this cathedral, and this is the Cathedral of San Antonio, which is right across the street from the Cathedral of Lisbon. And I just thought it was interesting, this big wall of flowers and stuff like that, and you go inside, and I tell you, like, there are so many, I came across so many cathedrals like this with just like this, I don't know what you call it, flagrant, like so much gold used and all that. I mean, it's pretty impressive. And there's a little shrine there to Saint Antonio, who is actually the patron saint of Lisbon. And this was really interesting. Again, a little picture of Saint Antonio there. But when the Catholic Church, where you might light a candle and a prayer for something like that, was in case instead of having fires or anything like that burn down the place, these little things, these are LED lights. And so you put in a coin here, and then an LED light comes on for a prayer to a loved one. So look, those pesky RC, you can monetize everything, right? So, I don't know, it just didn't seem to have the same effect to me as lighting a candle, but anyways, what do I know? So, get across the street, and here I am, the starting point of the Camino de Portuguese at the Cathedral of Lisbon, and I get to the sign, and what does it say here? I can't remember. Anyways, it's only open Monday to Saturday, and did I tell you this is Sunday? I'm there on Sunday. It's closed to the public on Sunday. And so, this is part of my when I talked about the naive guy off the plane, everything in my plan, everything that I read, there's a couple of dimensions to this, but my plan was, there's so many different things online. There's so many things that you have to sign up and you got to pay for money to get, and I thought, I knew that when I got here, I could get my credentials, which is basically, they call it like a passport, and it's on the table there. You saw that, if you looked at it, the document with all the stamps on it. You stamp, as places you stay along the route. And so, again, to qualify for your Compostela, you've got to have your credentials, your passport, and then I thought, there's these displays with all these books and all these guides and these maps, and so I was going to get here, I was going to get all those things that I needed to help me navigate and get me on my Camino. And it's closed. And there's none of that stuff. Well, I got my phone with my way too expensive SIM card, And so, I mean, you know, you got Google Maps, and so, anyways, there's just this big, beautiful brown door that was locked. So, anyways, this was an image that I had on my phone, this map, and this was really like my key to where I needed to go. So obviously I'm starting in Lisbon, but you know, there's the path up, and it's really nice. Like this particular thing, I mean, it's showing these as stages all the way up, and so I knew that you know, I needed to be, you know, like at least one of the stops is Alpriet, and so Google Maps, you know, I don't have any documentation, but I mean, I read all about it. You're supposed to, there's all these Camino signs. I'll have images coming up, but there's always, you're always looking for yellow arrows, you know, that points you the way. Well, I'm not even a block away from, and there's, I can't find any signs, any route markers, nothing that says I'm on the plat. Like there's just nothing. Like I'm looking around, I'm lost. So I mean, at least I got my phone. I've got it set. You know, I got Google Maps going. So I mean, I don't panic in these situations. It's not a big deal. I mean, I've got my phone. I said I got a credit card in my pocket. I mean, I'm in Lisbon. I'm in a city. I mean, I'm not gonna like have to sleep, you know, on a curb or anything. So anyways, I know I got to get close to the river. And so this is actually just a couple blocks from the cathedral, and so there's a big cruise ship there at the port, and so anyways, I start heading sort of north up along the riverside, and so ton of these electric scooters. Like I've noticed a lot more showed up around here this summer, but they're just by the gazillions all over Europe. Electric scooters is how people are getting around, but there was also like bus lines through there. The other reason why I took this picture is the clay roofing or whatever, and the red clay roofs. Like every building has a red clay roof. They don't use asphalt shingles there at all, anywhere, any dwelling, anytime. So then, continuing to go along. So on one side, you've got the what's the name of the river again? The Tagus River, and I mean that's a river, but you can see it seems more like a big lake, but it's a long way to the other side. So that's still Portugal to the south, but I know I'm going to be traveling, you know, or actually to the south. But I'm going to be going around up to heading north and following that. And so as I'm going along, again, it's a port city, so of course, even though you've got this lovely river at times, there's all those things that has to do with like shipping, because just a short way out that river, you're into the Atlantic Ocean. And so for, you know, world shipping, probably recognize those things for holding grain, right, for shipping. So I'm actually walking this way. I've turned back as I passed it, but it was so huge, I thought it was cool. Continue to walk along, and so now you're starting to see this huge bridge that's heading all over the other side. And so as you're getting closer to the beginning of it, until I looked at my pictures, I didn't even notice that there was the tramway or whatever you want to call it. That was pretty cool. And so then we come up to this particular place, and so this is called the Feira Internacional de Lisboa, and it's basically a huge sort of convention center, and they have a flag here for every country. There's the Canadian flag there. It's pretty impressive, and there's a little plaque on each pole just saying a little bit about every country. And so the big thing coming up later at the end of the month, June 29th, was the International Craftsman Convention. So that's exciting. So as we're getting closer to this bridge, this bridge is called the Vasco da Gama, and it's actually the second longest bridge in Europe. It's just over 17 kilometers long, and passing over the Tagus River. It used to be the longest until the Crimean Bridge there, opened by everyone's favorite, Vladimir Putin. But didn't that get bombed already? Did they blow that up? Yeah, I think the Ukrainians blew it up. So maybe it is the longest now. So longest functioning bridge. And so I didn't take this picture. This is just off of actually Wikipedia, I think. But I wanted a full aerial view of how it goes. And so, and then this is my first day. It was a 4-bed little hostel situation. And at, what was it? It was at the Parque de Nacos. So that was really, it wasn't far from the beginning of that bridge. And so at that point, I only started at little after noon that day. So that was 19 kilometers in my first day. So day 2, we're still going along the river. And so this is just a shot of this boardwalk that leads, and which is actually really nice for walking, this fantastic view of the Tagus River. But it was hot that day. It hit about 30, 31 degrees Celsius, totally exposed. You're raised up. There was no wind. You think you might get some nice wind. There wasn't any wind. And so for 8 kilometers, and you can't really get off it. I think I got another picture. To the left, yeah, there's train tracks. There's a fence. So there's just nothing. You can't get any water. You can't stop for a snack or anything. So 8 clicks on this boardwalk, which wasn't bad walking. And then this was my stay the next night. And so now but there's a Camino sign. So that was a bright moment. But I still technically didn't know where the actual trail was, and just using Google Maps. So again, see, the problem with Google Maps is, the Camino Trail is meant to be, it really takes you by, religious, because it's a religious pilgrimage, and so it's not as the crow flies. In fact, if anything, it weaves through all different places, but it hits key religious places, hits all the big great cathedrals and stuff like that. But when you put in Google Maps, even though you do the walking thing, it starts based on the roads, the highways, and then just gives you a walking trail kind of close to that. And so for those first couple days, spent way too much time walking on highways. But fabulous flowers up on the retaining wall. Again, that was just some trail in. And one thing I really appreciate, we love our dandelions. But in Europe, the wildflowers they have, you see clematis here everywhere. And this is actually an industrial site. I can't remember what they manufactured there, but this is just clematis growing on a chain link fence, and it went for blocks. Just gorgeous. And I finally see a Camino sign. So it's saying here it's actually the Camino de Fatima. So it's sort of there's another little Camino for Fatima, but for a couple hundred kilometers, they're actually the same path. So if you ever see a blue arrow, it's for Fatima, and a yellow arrow is for Camino. So now I've got an idea. I'm in the ballpark of being actually on the path, and I'm really excited about that. So we're going along, lots of agriculture. So this is very much like prairies down in southern Portugal, and their winters are really wet. Now again, the climate here is they could get frost if it got cold enough, but there's never, the ground never freezes. And so they have a huge growing season. But the summertime can actually, and even August can get really hot. It can hit the 40s in August. But in June, it's only supposed to be the 20s, low 20s actually. And I was just fortunate enough to land in a heat spell. And I'm walking exposed in plus 30, 31. But everything, agriculture, everything is has to be irrigated. And so a lot of variety, different irrigation. Here's some corn. You all know about that. This really surprised me. Rice field. That's a rice field right there. And yeah, like rice is actually a significant staple. Use lots of carbs in their food, rice and potatoes. This is just a sort of an irrigation canal that was coming off the river, but the flowering water lilies were just beautiful. And this is the moment that I realized, yay, I'm actually on the Camino Trail. It's actually getting into day 3, and again, probably again a representation. The Camino takes you on every kind of surface you could possibly imagine, including like little dirt trails along the field. And so yeah, Azambuja, this was, this is the end of day 3, right? Sorry, I don't have it all memorized. Oh yeah, end of day 3. So a couple key things that happened before this, like along this way. So like I said, this is day 3, and I finally discovered that I was actually on the Camino Trail, and it was actually about 2 hours out of arriving at this albergue. I met my first pilgrim. So it was day 3 before I even saw someone doing, what I'm doing. But actually this albergue was great because there was actually 8 out of the 12 beds were taken. So all of a sudden I went from like 0 to like fully integrated into a pilgrim community, and made some friends right from there, like kind of right through. I mean, that's sort of the nature of it. Like I said, 493,000 people go to the Compostela every year, but but at any given time, it's not like you're crossing paths with all those people throughout a year. There's kind of a community of people that are kind of moving along the stages at the same time, and even if you're not walking with them, because sometimes someone will take a rest day and then you get separated and then you meet up a week later. But there's kind of like a group of people that it became sort of regular faces after a while, and so met a few good friends throughout that started here. So you meet other people, and as unprepared as I was, I finally could talk to people and get some ideas and some better tools. And so great thing about here is that the George was the caterer, or the curator of the albergue. An albergue is basically, it's a hostel, but it's a special hostel because it's one that's designated for the Camino. It's actually kind of sponsored by the Camino, and so they're way less expensive. Like earlier, that first albergue one was about 30 euros, and for this one, I think 20. So they're always the least expensive places to stay. And so sharing information with my friends. So George got me my credentials. I got my passport, so I could start getting stamped and put my place of origin on it that I would need later. And also I learned about an app from actually the first pilgrim I met. Her name was Kara. She told me about this app called Wise Pilgrim, and built right into it is like a GPS. So it's like Google Maps, except it's built for the Camino. And so the little blue dots are the trail. And the big blue dot, that's you. So it's actually using GPS, and you're following, so you can actually see, thank you technology, if you're on the trail or not. Now, that's if it works perfectly. And it wasn't always accurate, and I still managed to get lost so many times, even doing this, because there were times that it would show that I was on the trail, and then you found out that you weren't. And then vice versa, you might show you're off the trail, and you might be lost, but then the next thing you realize that you actually were on the trail, that the map was wrong. And so there's always this case of confusion, like, am I right, or is the app right? And so, it makes things exciting. So, like I said, we're finishing day 3, and I'll just let you know, or a little, little heads up, Day 4 was my worst day of the entire trip. It was my disaster day. But anyways, good old George, his name was actually Jorge, but I guess for us English-speaking people, he said his name was George. He actually brings this book out and he tells me, okay, this fourth leg, the one that goes up to Santiago, is a huge challenge because you're very limited on your opportunities. So Jorge points out to me that this place here, this Cafe Camino, is like an outstanding place to get breakfast. So make sure you stop there. And then he points out that Velada here, there is like a cafe and stuff like that. Make sure you get water and stuff there. And then he told me that Porto Mouge here, and actually in my app too, it also shows you like every town and what kind of amenities it has. And so there was like a place to sleep. There was like an albergue there. And so this entire route, I mean, you even say here, it says it's about 33, 34 kilometers, and it's 31 degrees. And so after a very long, hot day the day before, I'm thinking, you know what? Oh, and the other piece is, after you get past here, basically Porto de Mouge is your last stop. There's nothing, like no water, anything for 13 kilometers until you get to, whatever the name of that is. It's about 2 kilometers out of Santarém. There's a gas station there where you can get water. So there's like over 13 kilometers of nothing. So you got to make sure you stock up on water, and everything. And then again, it's over 30 degrees. So my plan is, I'm gonna get a jump on the day. I do get a coffee and a snack, but I'll have my big breakfast. That's 10 kilometers in, and really like food up there. And then I've got a bag of snacks and stuff, some food. And so, there's Veleda, and then I'm not gonna take on all 33, 34 kilometers this hot day. I'm gonna actually stay in Porto de Mouge, and then I'll do that second half to Santarém, the next day, in one big chunk, get supply up and good to go. So anyways, so the day starts, and it's a beautiful day to start. It's very warm, clear, sunny, but as the temperature rises, it's getting a little tougher. I met this wonderful couple, by the name of, Ash and Carol Cookson was their names. Lovely couple from the States. And so one of the things that you see, if you're ever Googling like the Camino, and there's all these companies that provide services where, like they'll plan out all your stops for you, book all your rooms, and not only that, their luggage, they'll take it to each spot ahead of you. So all you've got to carry is the bare minimum, like some food or water, right? Well, I can't afford, that's not in my budget. I wasn't going to do that. I've got to carry all my stuff. But anyways, this couple, they were in one of those programs. Anyways, we were having this fabulous walk, and so we get to the Cafe Camino, and I look, and it's really weird. There's a low wall, and then there's a space, and look, but it basically looks like it's a kind of a large farming place, and there's a couple of buildings, and so anyways, I go in the gate and I walk up the path, and so I can hear a couple of men's voices talking. And so I walk up and I come around the corner of this building, and I'm looking around and I don't really see anything. I go, cafe? And they go, no, closed. Like, this is my breakfast. I just walked 10 kilometers and no breakfast. Jorge, you let me down. So, okay, fine. So off we go up to Veleda. So I'm still walking with the Cooksons, fabulous people. We're having great conversation. And we get to Veleda, and now like the sun's really hot. It's getting like midday, and we get to this place, and it's residential, but there's one cafe, and with the absolute most horrible, rude, mean woman running it you'll maybe ever meet in your lifetime. Not yet on the Camino, like everyone was so nice. Like everywhere else, everyone was so nice and accommodating, and they just welcomed the pilgrims and was so good. She was awful, and people that I talked to later, everyone had the same response. Like she was just mean and awful to everyone. So anyways, we get there, and with our experience and I don't know, it's like she didn't want the business. Like, why are you here? Anyways, had a cup of coffee, and actually, I mean, again, Porto de Mouge is not that far. So, listen, I'm not going to spend any more money. We just need to get out. I'm still with the cooks. We're going to go because I don't want to buy anything more from this woman because the whole just getting a cup of coffee was such a thing. So off we go. And so we get to Porto de Mouge and the space there, big iron gates with a big chain locked. And it's closed. Nothing there. Jorge, you let me down even more, right? So there's nothing, and we didn't really pick up much. Now, thank goodness I was walking with the Cooksons, and bless their dear hearts. Again, like they only had to carry food and water, so they actually had like a couple extra 1.5-liter bottles of water, and they may have saved my life, really, because they shared with me, and they even had some fruit that they shared with me. I mean, I did have some snacks, but I was only carrying at that point, it was a 750 ml bottle of water, and it was long gone. Like they had refilled it at least once for me. And so here we are, and we got to go the rest of the 15 kilometers to Santiago. And like basically, I'm a wreck already. I'm dehydrated, got no energy, haven't really eaten anything of substance, but there's no choice, you got to go on. Anyways, so, well, it lived. So even when we get to, it's Omnius. That's the place there. Somehow we missed it with the trail. Oh, and I forgot the best part. The last 2 kilometers up into Santorim. Santorim is a high point, like almost like on a mountain. So over the last 2 kilometers, it goes up 300 meters. Incline. Like it is like just like walking up like a 60-degree incline. Yeah, we missed that gas station or whatever was supposed to be there. Now talking to others, they found it, so we're just having a good day, and missed that. And I mean, my tail has never been so low in my life, dragging it up that hill. And so when we finally got this first place, the first it was like a little convenience store or whatever, and we bought big jugs of water and actually popped 2 for energy, and just sat there and drank them, and then went on to find albergues. But it was, so anyways, now I'm telling the story, but this is what I saw on the route. These are tomatoes. They have fields of tomatoes like we have wheat fields, and that's all irrigated too. There's plastic tubes, lines that run all along that. Like you've never seen so many tomato plants. And there's fields and fields of that. That's a lemon tree, another lemons. And this is one little town we're going through, and it was just, they had murals everywhere, and some sort of local artist. Anywhere you had a flat space, there's these beautiful murals. These are grapes. So again, orchards and orchards of grapes. A lot of wine and beer is so cheap there, but they make a ton of it. So this is coming up, up into somewhere near the bottom of that bridge. There is where that gas station, wherever the trail leads, that we missed, and you can't even see actually where it is into Santorim yet because it really goes up. Anyways, I was just so exhausted. I could have taken a whole lot. There was actually some awesome views, pictures, but I was just so wasted I couldn't even think to take a picture. So finally end up in my albergue that I actually had to find while I was there, like stopped and started to Google spots and found it. And I ended up, and so I already decided, like I was so dehydrated and just so depleted I said, I'm just going to take a rest day. So I took this place for 2 days, and it was an 8-bed, a brand new place, all concrete, and I had the whole thing to myself for 2 days. So nice new sinks, and there's the shower stalls into the water closet. So I basically just rehabbed for a whole additional day. And I hadn't realized that, like I sort of told before how, I hadn't slept really for 2 nights before I landed in Lisbon, which was really helpful because then after walking 9 kilometers, I think I slept 10 hours that night. And then the second night, I think I slept 11 hours. And so I was, as far as sleep-wise, I was completely, didn't have an issue with jet lag. I was awake during the day, I was asleep at night. But I found, but I wasn't really eating. And even though what had gone on in that trip to Santorini here, it was like my gastrointestinal system was jet lagged. And so, I don't have pictures of it because this is actually starting the next day, but there was, my albergue was close to a mall, like a real modern mall and stuff like that. And so I came to this conclusion on my rest day. They had a KFC in there. And I said, you know what? I need some North American junk food to straighten out my gastrointestinal. You know what? And it worked. Had one of those crispy chicken sandwiches and some fries, and I was 100% and healed after I came out of that. So most part I ate really healthy, but anyways, so now we start. So I've rested a day, recovered, and so we start heading off to our next leg. So we're heading to, it's day 6 now. We're heading to Galega. But anyways, Santorini is fantastic. It's a great city, and so many, again, being at a high point, views in every direction are just amazing. And it's starting, like I said, the more southern part of Portugal is very much like prairies, but now it really starts getting mountainous. And just a cathedral, little cathedral. Hello. Oh, here we go. That was sort of peace along that same road. And so you're heading towards I guess it's sort of like the north part of the city. And so really it was established, Santorini was established actually on a Moorish kind of fort or castle. And so that's actually, I guess you would say on the guarded side. You can see sort of like the old, again, I don't know, like guard lookouts or whatever. And so I'm heading up into that area, into the park, just fabulous pictures. Again, overseeing, actually this is key. I'll actually end up walking up this road as I leave Santorini. And so then this is what was behind those, like up top there. This is the place of the actual fort, and just beautiful gardens. And so then I've gone down these stairs, so now you're up here, and now you got to make your way down, down to that plane. And so this was actually a very steep road down. That's one thing, pictures don't actually show you grade, walking down that. And so now I'm on that sort of that road I pointed out, looking back at the fort. More pictures of Santorini. Those are tomatoes again. And not as well taken care of, a lot of grass growing in between. And so it was really interesting. So I'm walking along, and I've got my handy-dandy app, and so I can see where the trail's going, and I can also see where I'm going to go and how it diverts. And I think there's a shortcut through this vineyard. And so I sort of start cutting across it, and there's these big spaces, and there's even places where there's a couple of tractors that are working and that they're cultivating in between the rows of the grapevines and the rows. And I'm going through the middle, and right in the middle of this whole orchard, there's this spot underneath this tree, and there's a resin table and some chairs. And so I stopped there, and I had a drink of water, and I had a snack, and just seemed to be a cool thing to do. And so the trail now gets a lot more rural. Again, I talked about how much irrigation is important, so that I'm assuming that's a big like a semi-tractor engine, diesel engine that's there running, powering the irrigation. And there's some corn, like real young. And so this was sort of the first sign to me about like the different growing seasons, because earlier I showed you a picture of corn about this tall, and now there's some shorter stuff. And then as we got further north, there was corn this tall. And so you can see how again, I think they're getting multiple crops a season, but you could find crops all in different stages of growth. And especially like something like corn, it was really amazing how different is our very finite season. Nice little stream. So again, a little ways down the road from the one with the diesel engine doing the irrigation, come across this place, and there's solar power. They had electric pumps, and they're using a solar field to irrigate. Wheat field, it's pretty ready to harvest. And again, so this is just a few kilometers down the road. Like there's corn this high, and then there's wheat ready to be harvested. So very different. That was just pretty. Another cathedral. Oranges. It was funny, like it was kind of getting into prime lemon time, but anytime you came across orange trees, like they were overripe, like they were just, the fruit was shot. And so someone hadn't picked these. And so this is a couple of friends that I met. So I met these at Azambuja. They're one of the couple that sort of helped me out. They were like very experienced hikers doing stuff at Camino. And actually, Rich here, we actually probably walked together total almost half the time. And Rich here, he actually walked the Appalachian Trail, or hiked the Appalachian Trail. And so if anyone knows that, like the Appalachian Trail runs, I had that in here. Anyways, it's like 2,200 miles through the mountains. It starts in Maine and ends up in Georgia. Over 5.5 months, and then you have to carry like a camp stove and a tent. Like you're really bushing it on this trail, and sometimes got to carry like 3 to 4 days worth of food and water to different stops. So he was the pro, and then him with a book with his little trail, working out like routes and where we're going to stop and stuff like that. I really enjoyed walking with him because like he was just like focused on this, obsessed with planning the route, and so I walk along with him. He just let Rich worry about where we're going to stop, where we're going to stay. It was covered. And so as we're coming out, so there's no town. It's not a town unless you got a donkey and a chain in someone's lawn. So again, so here's some corn again, a little further along. And these, I think that was citrus. Storks. So there's an old abandoned like factory with this huge tall stacks. Like these probably had to be like at least 100 feet high. And storks there in a nest. So this was really cool. Like one thing that was really obvious, especially in southern Portugal, I mean, it was a lot poorer, and I think it was a lot like even like southern Manitoba, we have the spots like those small towns that no longer exist, and sometimes you see the ruins. Maybe there's still an old leaning barn or one that's fallen down, or there was a homestead there 20 years ago and now there isn't, where they've just been let go. Well, and that's because everything we built here in the prairies was made of wood, and so it leaves quicker. But there, it's all like masonry. It's all stone. It's all concrete. And it survives like hundreds, some cases like 1,000 years. And so this was all abandoned. And so, it was once upon a time, you could see like it was like the cornerstone of a huge estate. Like it was beautiful, but it was all empty, but like a renovation. And so there was, as you continue to go north from it, there was just huge, orchards and land. This is just there was a little bridge that came out of those same dwellings, and it was, for it to be like renovated, it could be the most beautiful property ever, but you saw those all the time. Again, just like I described, there, as the rural downsized, as farms got bigger with the modern technology, the small small one-family farm disappearing. And so you'd see the ruins of these spaces. Well, this was obviously some big landowner back in the day, but you see a lot of these would be farmhouses, but they're made of stone, and they literally could be abandoned like for 300, 400 years. And like the roof is gone, but like everything else is still there. And the fences are all stone walls. They are all made of stone and with concrete. Again, just showing some more irrigation. I don't even know what that crop is. So this was the weird thing to me. And again, maybe it has to do with the varying like water that they got. Like the winters are very wet and the summers can be quite dry. But this is just along the roadway, along a retaining wall. And that's like these monstrous cactus. So you've got this real, like, you're going to see, like I said, citrus trees and grapes. And then like these big clusters of cacti, beautiful flowers on them. And then, chickens. So this is a Saturday. This is my first Saturday. We're on day 7 here. And walking up the street and a wedding going on. So kind of, unfortunately, walked through a wedding as they were exiting the church. Again, terrain's changing, a lot more dirt trails and a lot more mountainous, and so the landscape is really varying. So this is super cool. Like when I talked about everything's made of like stone and concrete, even their hydro poles, that's concrete. They're all formed concrete. Like I don't know what concrete costs there, but it can't cost what it does here because you could never afford to do that. So as you're heading more north, you're starting to get more amenities, and so this is actually, supposed to be safe drinking water. I didn't try it. I was just looked a little too sketchy for where we're going. Now this seems odd, but I left again in the beginning of June. And, the winter, the spring that we had, and what the roads are like here in Brandon. But this is an example of how they repair an asphalt road in Portugal. Like that is so smooth. Like it was polished smooth. Like no bumps, no ridges. And again, they don't have frost, so they don't have like frost boils. They don't have stuff breaking down. But when they do a repair, it looks like it's going to last like 200 years. So that was the morning of the next place, and it got rain. So it was the first time I had my poncho on, and so it rained for about an hour. And so, it stopped in about an hour. This is day 8, so this is a Sunday. And so it stayed overcast all day. It didn't exceed 22 degrees, so this is the first time we really got a break in the weather. Like it had been so hot prior to this, and now, it got a lot more reasonable thanks to the weather change. Oh, actually, no, it didn't get this day because the sun came out after that rain and it got super humid and we cooked again. But this interesting dam, again. Oh, Francesca. So I'd seen her a couple days earlier, and Rich and Danny knew her, and she was just Italian woman, and she was just a hoot. And so her feet were all torn up, and every time she stopped, she'd take off her socks and her shoes, to air out her feet. She's having a snack, throwing up the peace sign as we're going by. But even though never really communicated with her, she was so funny. Again, another little different looking church. Checking the views. So this was an interesting stop at, man, I wish I hadn't left, no, not Malhida, that's not it. Oh, I'm ahead of myself. I'm sorry. Anyways, I'm lost. Okay, here we go. Oh, Quinta de Cortica. Super cute hostel. There's just some benches outside. It had all these kind of rustic, like little horse carts and that kind of stuff. And so there's a vending machine here, and this is really interesting. So again, the combination of the humidity and the heat, it wasn't a very long day. It was one of our shorter stages, but I was feeling really dehydrated, and so I was hoping to get it's getting something like a Gatorade is so hit and miss, way more misses than hits. So I checked out this vending machine. So in there, they'd had Powerade, and I'm like, great, Powerade for €2.50, which is pretty close to $4 Canadian, but go to a gas station here. That's all right, so I bought that. But also in that same vending machine was also cans of beer, and they were only €1. And that speaks a little bit to what it's, and the culture around there, like you can buy wine, here, you can get it in a vending machine. You can buy it anywhere. It's in every cafe. Cafe and pub are the same thing. Like you go there in the morning to get your coffee, and then, there's some people starting into the beer at 10, but then like through the evening, these places of business, every convenience store, every grocery store, it doesn't matter where you stop to buy something, you can buy wine and beer. And so that's Danny and Rich again. So they had this is a pool. They actually had a swimming pool at this albergue, and it wasn't heated. And despite the heat that we had gone through, the water was freezing. But it was just wonderful to soak your feet in that cold water after days of hard walking. It's like Rich has got an ice cream. I guess they found ice cream there. I didn't have ice cream. What's up with that? And then, so this is the next morning coming out, and so the albergue was actually down here. We didn't realize it until we were leaving. It was right, sort of up against this kind of fort thing. So we're heading out today. We're still in the town, and we're going along. So it was really, really common to when anytime you're in, in a town, in a city, in Portugal, everything is always fenced. Properties are always fenced, and everybody's got dogs. And in this case, there was these puppies, and they were just so excited to see us. They were licking our hands and stuff like that. They were just so excited to see us. But most of the time, there's big dogs, and every time you walk by a house, the big dogs are they scare the heck out of you so many times. You're hoping that the fences actually retain them. Big dogs are everyone's form of house security. So another thing as far as the culture, these little shrines, they're just everywhere, and they'll be in a middle of nowhere. Again, just showing the terrain change. First time I saw cattle, and they serve a lot of beef and pork. I saw a pig. I didn't get a picture of it, I think in the same farm. Just a nice piece of property, pools. Again, another one of those shrines always talked about, everywhere you're going, these fences made of stacked rock that are hundreds of years old. Here the terrain's a little bit more rocky, and again, another reason why I took the picture is you can't really, the picture doesn't show you the grade. It's very, it's starting to get really hilly and steep inclines. And then there was this one building that looks like some renovations, and all of a sudden we just looked over and there's a cat staring at us. This is another one of those, I don't know what you would call it, like a shrine or a little prayer spot. So the road actually is going along like this, and you'd actually have to come off the road down some steps in through this long grass, and you come in, and inside was actually really well maintained. It had fresh plants, and there's some fresh cut flowers. I think I remember there was even a candle burning, but it was locked. You couldn't get in it. Very interesting. That's my hand, and that's a lemon. Yeah, that's a regular lemon. And those big ones, all the time. I didn't know lemons could be like that. But they're all over the place. These monstrous, mutant-looking lemons. And so I kind of thought, is there a parasite in there or something making it weird? Or or if I cut it open, a worm's going to come out? Or I was really nervous about opening it up. Anyways, I cut it open. And I didn't take a picture of that, but it was the rind was actually very thick, but inside the juice was wonderful. It was super sour, it's super sweet at the same time. I squeezed the juice out into my water container, and it was lovely. And so, this was interesting. So it's is that Portugal Day? Oh, I'm sorry. So many places. Anyways, we stopped at, it's a Sunday. Oh, here we go. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. It was Portugal Day, and so like it was a holiday, and so we had a terrible time of getting like anything that day. And so this one restaurant that we got a heads up from, they were open until 3. And so we were actually staying in the albergue across the street, or beside it. And so we heard about it, and we just squeaked in time. Actually, we were late, and they still served us. But there had just been an election in Portugal, and in the backyard of this place, they had a reception for the new prime minister, that had just newly elected prime minister, which was really cool. Now, we couldn't get anywhere near it because when we walked up, it looked like Secret Service, right? Bodyguards, there's all these guys in suits and, with, the ear things, and they're talking, and you could just tell, you weren't going down the side street into the, the back area. You could see that there was tents set up and that. But they were having a reception. And so this same place was providing the food for this reception for the newly elected prime minister. And it was like a 4-course meal for like 20 euros. And the beer and the bread was like, and there's always, every time they serve any beverage, there's always olives and sometimes nuts. And then there was some beef and potatoes, rice. I didn't even show the dessert. I can't remember what the dessert was, but. Then we're off the next day, so moving on. So now we're getting a little bit more amenities, and so this, that big wheel, you turn it and clean drinking water, so the water was like super nice cold. Again, just showing the terrain. That's Danny and Rich down the hill, up the hill, down the hill, up the mountain, down the mountain. A lot of incline, and so the stages were actually a little shorter, but they were way tougher just because it was such a variance. In fact, I know in this particular day, I think there was a change in altitude of about 300 meters. So we're going up the walkway here, and you see again the old stone fence, and there's this, again, dilapidated, the roof's gone, and it's almost like again, it was a big building, or was it like a castle? And so Rich and I both climbed up these stairs here, which was just about taking your life in your hands to try to do that, and went through that doorway, and then inside, obviously they're not worried about liability out there, but there was actually, here a little sign sort of explaining it, Rich was looking at, and then this yellow thing, it was all in Portuguese, couldn't understand it, but it was also some sort of a dedication about something that happened there once upon a time, and it was all overgrown. Oh, and then that was, I guess, a meal. So this is really interesting. So how you had back in the day where you had the milkman bring milk? We'd see all the doors, in the morning there was bread, fresh bread was hanging on the doorways all the residents. There's some bread delivery. That's it, and that's the other thing about culture. And I've talked a little bit about how much wine and beer are part of their culture. The food really isn't anything special. I mean, when have you ever heard about, hey, let's check out the new Portuguese restaurant that opened in town, right? That's just something you don't hear. And it's because it's just really basic, it's like potatoes, rice, meat. And they don't even do anything really special to, season it, but you get huge quantities, which is always something I like. But one thing they're big on, and that's is their coffee, their espresso coffee, which is crazy, and pastries, and their baking. They're huge carbs in their diet there. But the pastries in the morning, like in the cafes, are just fantastic. So we were just totally like enamored by these things. They were everywhere. Like these simple small farms. And yeah, like there's this motor that's actually driving the front wheels. Like you can see, like there is the drive shaft, or like, the back axle here with a differential, but there was nothing driving the back wheels. So that was taken off. Again, this is piecemeal. These are just components welded together, but you saw these things everywhere. Like it was just sort of like what the farmers used to, cart around or take their harvest to market or whatever. Like, and some of them looked like they were actually manufactured that way, like they were newer. This is actually a better looking one. There are some that were just unbelievably sad looking, that were just, you didn't even know how they were holding together, but they were everywhere. There's I think it was a deer eating olives. That's an olive tree. This is a cute little stop along the way. So no one was there, but there was some baking, there was fruit, there was, I think there was even bottles of water. They had some little trinkets and stuff like that. And then they just had like a pot, and it just said, like help yourself, pilgrims, and just throw in whatever money you think is appropriate. And it was really cute, real eclectic, had all kinds of different things. It was a really interesting garden. Didn't see anything like it again after either. It was really unique. It's like a big, was that Coimbra? Okay, so this is significant. So everything has been pretty plain, I can say, leading up to to Coimbra. Again, a very, very much rural. The towns, most of the buildings are dilapidated. Some of them have been maintained and look quite good. But Coimbra is definitely, I mean, as soon as you're coming down from like a very high place down really rocky paths, but so it's going down to a main river that leads into the Atlantic. But right away you could see like there was huge economic boom type place, construction going on, lots of renovation. It was just beautiful and a wonderful place. Like and tourism, you could tell, was just a big deal. And so everything was like you could just feel like the money and so wrong way. So this is one of the big cathedrals, and it went along. Did I get a picture of it? No. It was huge how it stretched like for blocks, and then you could see that there was like a residence for like nuns and this kind of stuff, but it was just like a massive cathedral and other dwellings. And so you continue to go down, and so it's going along the river. What day are we on? I didn't memorize all this. Where's Coimbra? Oh, well, can't remember the name of that river. Beautiful. And so so there's Rich and Danny, and so they had met these couple young girls. Actually, they had just finished university. Again, it's June, early June, and so this girl here actually was waiting to hear about her marks to see if she's going to graduate. And so so the two of them, they're from London, and so they had been kind of mirroring our trek, and so there was a fabulous, like right on the street. So this whole street here, it used to be a street, but they kind of closed it off from traffic, and so it was all like street shops and restaurants. And so we stopped at this lovely Italian place, had a wonderful meal. This is the next day. We're heading out of town. Just some interesting properties. Again, never seen trees like this. These tall, skinny trees that were, there would be just like huge areas of almost forests of them as we're walking now and getting this very mountainous terrains. There's some hydrangeas for you, and these are wild, actually. So you could see it was before when you're coming up the road. It's all like residential properties on the other side of that wall, and so they were very, very nice yards. And this is just like a dirt road, and then to the right was just bush. And so these hydrangeas were literally just, I guess, seeds that blew over the fence from the plants that people had in their backyards. And they're just growing wild along this wall for like, well, it was, I guess, a couple hundred meters, 300 meters. And so this was interesting. So then the next hostel that we stopped at was really interesting. It had been sort of renovated like an older place. But this is the shower, and then with the toilet right there. Like, you could literally shower while on the toilet. Like, because even when you showered, like, everything got wet there. There was a separate cabinet to this side where they kept the toilet paper dry, because when you showered, like you can see the water running down the walls here, right? That was the most interesting thing in this hostel. So, I got to get in the right spot here. Oh, here we go. One very cool thing about it was, was it the next day? Oh, I had a note. Where are we? This is great. I'm leading you down this, but I don't even know where we are. We're into Porto. Sorry. So anyways, a key thing that I should have wanted to talk about. So that rocky path down into Coimbra, like where the river was. So I had been, and I put on the table with my stuff there, my shoes are there, and my socks. And as much as I did like a terrible time about planning my logistics that I had to pick up along the way. The one thing I did really well is that I researched my shoes, my socks. I tried them out. I was, really did my homework. I got a history. I got experience doing sports retail, selling athletic shoes, and so my feet were well taken care of. But I bet you 75% of the pilgrims on the Camino had severe blister problems, like ripped up feet, pulling off big chunks of skin off their feet, blisters. Like it's just sort of a normal thing. And I say 75% had like bad, and probably, at least 95% had blistering some kind. And I didn't have anything, but my feet were fine 100%. But I had a little bit of issue with plantar fasciitis prior in my training, and so I had been getting rehab here at Dynamic, and so it was still, I had to do a lot of stretching and stuff to keep it loose. And anyways, I guess in that that was a really long, into Coimbra was about 34 kilometers that day, and I guess I was fatigued, and we're going down this really rocky, long way into Coimbra for a couple of kilometers, and I guess I was favoring my right foot, I guess a bit, because downhill was always the worst, and I guess I was putting too much weight on my left foot, and I ended up with some real critical shin splints, like bad in my left leg, like crippling, searing, stabbing pain, and so for the next 3-4 days, I was on this steady diet of acetaminophen and Voltaren, just rubbing it into my shins, keeping loose. And so with the walk being so up and down, it was brutal. Anyways, that was the other thing at that same thing. We actually had laundry. That was our laundry there, going old school. So anyways, for the next bunch of days, I'm hobbling down, having a real terrible time. I took this picture, so there's a duck there, but those are like the painted turtles that we have, like, you know, like, yeah, like Turtle Mountains. Like, these are the same turtles we always had in the Turtle Derby in Boisevene. I go, like, what are they doing in Portugal? Although, I mean, I saw mallard ducks, but they, you know, they get around. But I don't know, turtles on both sides of the planet, so. Bempos. Oh, here we go. So we're coming up to Porto. Again, it rained that night. These rocks were super slippery and it was super steep. So met this young lady, Elsa was her name, and she had done some like a lot of these big kind of hikes. And I guess met her about 2 days before, and then you know, we ended up staying in the same hostel a couple of times. But she was, again, when I was talking about like wearing the right shoes and, you know, and doubling your socks and, you know, to make sure to prevent blisters, she was wearing like the crappiest beach sandals that you ever saw. And so this is her like flying past me. And like she was a machine, like she was unbelievable. And with the worst, she had no problem with blistering or anything like that. She had done lots of this kind of hiking, and she was remarkable. And I just remember texting Rich about, I wasn't walking with them that particular day, and it's just like, here's Elsa blowing past me again. Like, someone asked me at one point, like after I got back, you know, did the Camino make you feel young? And I said, no, it made me feel real old, real old. You get these youngsters, you know, that are on break from your university and stuff like that, and they're out here just about sprinting it. That was a government building. Okay, so here we are. We're coming into Porto. Now, Porto is a real key location. And so all that amazing stuff that I read on the internet basically refers to Porto on, because the key thing about Porto is it's, depending which route, if you take the central route, it's about 240 kilometers to Santiago. If you take the coastal route, it's about 270. But the thing is, you can do that in 2 weeks. And so Porto is a really popular place to start, because if you take 2 weeks vacation, you can do your Camino in those 2 weeks. And so this is just coming into Porto. These amazing bridges and views. And so I'm missing a picture. Did I forget to put it in? I didn't put it in. Oh, just before getting into Porto, there was this is one of those things where I'm following the app, and there's this, not even a rabbit trail, it was totally overgrown in, and I had just finished being lost because the app was wrong. And I got off trail and I had to correct and get back on. And now it was saying I was on trail, although it told me it was on trail last time when I was lost, when I wasn't. And so I'm looking at this total overgrown, super steep, rocky downhill, and that you got to like crawl through just about. But it turned out it really was the trail. And I'm sorry I didn't include the picture because it's an amazing picture. But anyways, into Porto, these amazing bridges coming into Porto, Portugal. And again, there's sort of the river, makes it a port. And again, it's a huge, again, because of the beginning of the Camino, a lot of people start the Camino there, but also it's just a huge touristy place, amazing city. If you're in Portugal, it's definitely a place to visit. So this is a meal, like after I got into my albergue, I was going down the street, and again, the whole street going up to my albergue was, again, all these sidewalk restaurants. There had to be like 20 of them in a 2-block radius, and it's sort of like buffet, right? Where I'm gonna stay and eat today, and there was Italian ones, and there was there's Asian food, and there was like all these different themes. So there was this just cute little grandma, I want to say. It was, again, when you talk about a family business, and they got grandma up front with a clipboard, doesn't speak any English, and she literally like grabbed me by my sleeve. You come eat, she's like, and she's showing me the clipboard, like, see all this great food, and so anyway, so I go in there, and so I order something to do with steak or whatever. And so it was done like fajitas. So it came out like that's a metal slab or whatever. And so the meat is still sizzling and cooking. And so if you take it off immediately, you get like a medium rare. And you'll just leave it on a little longer and it cooks through. But the meat is just fantastically, and there's a lot there. Not only that, it came with it, there was a casserole dish about this big, stacked about this high with fries, French fries, that came with this meal. And I think it was about 20 euros paid for this. And it was fantastic. Oh, who can eat all this food? Like, this is insane. And not only that, they were showing, that was the other thing, the Euro Cup was on, like the soccer matches for Europe. And so the game was on, and Portugal was playing that night. And so I ate it all. So I talked about the coffee earlier, like it really very quickly, it became my routine. Like you had coffee a couple of times, you really learned that caffeine was really your friend, giving you energy. And the way they do coffee there, like every cafe had the same machine, you know, and it only brews a cup at a time. And in Portugal, the locals all drink these espressos, these tiny cups, like shooters, and like they'll come up and they'll order their coffee and they'll, you know, give their money, and then they just like 1-2 sips, like right there at the counter. They don't go sit down in a chair. They just right at the counter, they drink their coffee and then go off to work. Like that was like just too intense for me, because I wasn't a coffee drinker before I ended up in Portugal. But I got hooked really good quickly because the coffee was amazing. But so they'd have like their regular espresso, or if you wanted Americano, they basically watered it down into like a 6-ounce cup. And then those of us that ordered it cafe leche, was with you know, basically it's as a latte or with the foam. They use the steam. They foam up the milk. Coffee was just amazing. Like Tim Hortons is such crap in comparison. But I got totally addicted, and so now I have this addiction, and I can't really even fully like feed it. So yeah, some really interesting cathedrals as you're going along. We're still in Porto. And so these are some that we met along the way. So we knew we were all in sort of different schedules, but I stayed an extra day, like I did a rest day. So I spent 2 days in Porto and saw the sights. And so we all knew we were going to connect, and so we met for a supper. Iona and Checky, that's the name. So I thought I'd just show. So we're in Porto right now. Now, Rich and Danny, they took the central route. That's the one I said that it's only 240 clicks to Santiago, but I wanted to go along the coast. Seen pictures of amazing views, so I went that way. And so anyways, this is leaving Porto that first morning, and this became the longest leg, longest walk I did, and the most amazing views. I did 38 kilometers that day, and plus once I was looking for, because you walk from hostel to hostel, but then you also got to get supplies and eat and, you know, groceries, whatever. So usually we end up walking. So I ended up walking a total of 40 kilometers this day. And so this is still in Porto, walking out with those bridges. So you're starting to head out, and so as you're walking along the river, like towards the ocean. Again, it's the coastal route. And then so there you can see a little gap as we're heading out. Like, so that's the ocean. There's a big ship you can see back in here. So it's really cool. They talk about like their history. And so there's along the ocean, there's all these little forts that used to be like lookouts or whatever for invaders. And again, you know, because how they're built with all the stone and they don't have freezing temperatures, like these things stand forever. They're hundreds and hundreds of years old. Some more oceanside. I finally remembered to take a good picture of olive trees that are everywhere. Again, another one of these, there's like a walkway out, and then that's a little fort station there. This was really interesting. So this was on the water, and I don't know I don't know if the water comes in at a higher tide or something, but it was really interesting because it's even got a drawbridge. Like there would have, once upon a time, there's like a moat around there. Oh, I thought I had another picture of it. Okay. Again, I forgot to put it in a picture. That was just something, I don't know what it was. I think it was kind of like a stadium. Like these are like seats and, I don't know if stadium's the right word, but you know, for concerts or whatever. Oh, that's back. I just got them out of order. That's that same fort with the little drawbridge. And anyways, this little piece says that was built in 1661, and it's right on the ocean, and it still looks good. Beach, the sand on the beach there is just, it's super fine and super soft. This white sand, just gorgeous. But it was incredibly windy, like through these days. Like the temperature is about 22 degrees Celsius, but the wind was coming in off the ocean at like, felt like 100 miles an hour. And it was actually made it quite cool. And so there wasn't people on the beaches because it was so windy and actual cool. But there's this guy who was surfing. No one on the beach, but he's surfing. Again, just another one of those forts with a little church in the front of it. This is all. So this was interesting. So Roman tanks for fish salting, as was aboard here. And so these things are, they figured were from the 3rd or 4th century, and they're still intact along the shore. Oh, that's what was her name? She was, can't remember. We walked together for half a day one day, and she was a lot of fun. Again, just there's a guy kite surfing. And you can see he's here. He's with the red. He's like in the air. So that was my longest stage coming out of Porto. Yeah, I walked 38K. Total for a day was 40.64K. I thought I was going to do, I didn't get organized. We had some technical problems. So I was going to do a little draw, a little raffle. Oh, here it is. So I wondered if anyone here could guess how many kilometers, or how many steps I took. Anybody use like a Fitbit or anything, or on their phone they track how many steps, or use a pedometer? What's a lot of steps for a day? 10,000. Yeah, a lot of that. That's my goal. Like I figure I've had a good day if I've walked 10,000 in a day. How many? 40,000. That's your. Yeah. You know what I'm guessing? You want to guess? Yeah. I've got a Camino keychain here that's leather, hand stitched, hand painted. 40,000 isn't the right answer, but yeah, how many steps do you think I took that day? By the way, I one day last month I walked 18 holes of golf, and I think I mowed the lawn, and I walked 19,000 steps. 150,000? 115,000? Oh no, now you're high. Who wants to win it? It's more than 40. It's less than 115. 65. Oh, guys, yeah, man, you're optimistic. No, you're a little high. 60, still a little high. 47,000. Oh, 54. Hit her 54. 52. 58. 58's a little high. 52. 49. We're going to be dancing around. Who said 54? There we go. It was actually 55,270 steps that day. I even have the, that's from my phone right there. There's my steps in a single day. That was my longest day, and believe me, it was long. And the key thing is that when I showed you, I said it was so windy and along the boardwalk. A lot of you're on a boardwalk along the ocean, and you know how we get snow drifts? Well, again, sand dunes is not a foreign thing. The boardwalk got buried with blowing sand, and so then they had it closed. They were repairing a section. So I was expecting to walk 35, and then I got a detour that added an additional 3 kilometers. And after you've walked 35 kilometers and you get a sign telling you a detour, is going to add 3 kilometers, I was a little upset. Trust me on that one. So this is actually the next day. So after all this time, we're into over 2 weeks of walking. And first time I saw a golf course. And along, obviously, a link style. Someone teeing off. We were walking right past there. One of the bridges. And then that was a hostel that we stayed at. I'm going to move along. So this was interesting. So beside that hostel right here is down about a block. And then, so again, this is an albergue, and like I said, this is sponsored by the church. And so this is the cathedral that was just like a block down. And so I don't know how well you can see this, but this is Padre Avellino, and he's wearing, well, under his, I guess his white alb, he's got a gold, like, cape here. He's wearing sunglasses, and he's releasing a dove. And this is the sign in front of their cathedral, like, and then showing, the times of worship. And so I think, we're thinking about what we should do for a sign here in front of Trinity. Like I'm thinking, Padre Avellino's got some great ideas. So stay tuned for what ours looks like. I don't even know what that was. So that's not water there. That's like plastic, again, to hold in, I guess, for the irrigation underneath. And so when you're in the coastal route, there's times you're right along the ocean, and then it also takes you inland, again, because they want to hit all these cathedrals that are on top of these mountains. And so it was, that was one of the reasons why I took the coastal route, because I thought, because prior to that, I had done so much up and down. And so I thought, hey, it's along the ocean, right? It'd be fairly flat if it's along the ocean. Wrong. Every time it took you inland, right away it was like up and down and up and down. This is kind of cute. So there's actually, what do you want to call it? Like a little ferry, a little barge. And so there's the little platform there, and they pulled along those ropes. So some of them moving people, and a little further downstream. Then these are stone slabs, and this is only like 3 feet wide. Like it's just a walking path, but there's these just cute little falls here. And that's one of the real blessings of the Camino, is just the wonderful things you see and the way you're going along the route. Oh yeah, that was that. So really up on top of this, like super tall, the trail takes you up top of this real high, you might as well count on a mountain. I mean, it wasn't super big, but then on top is this cathedral, and again, my Portuguese is useless, so I don't know what was the big deal with this one, but that was the interior. Yeah. And then, so this was funny. So this woman here, she was a social worker for Ireland, and we'd met up earlier, actually just after that, down the trail, a little on the trail after that last cathedral. And she was just a hoot, with with the Irish accent and everything. And we were laughing and talking. And somewhere along there, the trail really weaved down. And somehow we had diverted on another trail. And even though, I wasn't watching my app close enough, and we're walking and talking, and she goes, "Wait a sec, I've seen that before." And I'm like, "No." She goes, "Yes, we've walked by this spot before." And I'm like, so as I look back, sure enough, we had done a loop. Cost us about 2 kilometers. And then this is after that. We were walking along the beach for a while. And so again, this is another instance where the boardwalk got buried by sand. Again, it's just crazy wind. If you notice my pictures too, I'm not wearing my hat. I couldn't keep my hat on because the wind was so crazy. And so we chose to basically do 2 kilometers that would take us to this point, because inland is all this soft sand. So we did walk, where the sand was wet, because it was a little firmer, but it was still, like I said, the sand was super soft. And it was like walking through deep snow, like that whole way. And that was the easy route. and did 2 kilometers. Like my Achilles were just aching after that. Made for a long, tough day. Again, just interesting paths, stone walls. Again, looking down the oceans from one of the higher vantages and fields. Again, very steep climb. So this is interesting. So there's another one of these stone crossing across this creek, and there's this sign, free hugs. And so this woman here, she's in the yellow dress. She was such a character. She was hilarious. And so, so I'm like, hello, and she goes, oh, by the way, that's not my dog. I don't know whose dog that is. He always shows up here. And so it's a super friendly dog. And so she had a little table out there with a bunch of little trinkets, and she had some fruit and stuff like that she was, peddling, so to speak. But I was all supplied up, and I wasn't looking to carry anything that she had, but I got my free hug. And she explained how the world would be a better place if there was more free hugs. So that was just further along that same stream. Oh my goodness, it's 8:45 already. I gotta move quicker. Again, just a little bit about the terrain. Again, it's along the ocean here. Didn't actually have to climb that one, thank goodness. So I talked about the pastries. So this is something that I got kind of hooked on too with the morning coffee. And so what it is, it's actually, they're tarts, but they're very deep, and it's like a custard. And then they do, then there's like a, I don't know, something on it like a creme brulee where they take a torch and then they kind of melt that, so it's got a little bit of a crispy top, and then this custard underneath. So as your morning coffee is like totally decadent, but when you're walking like that, you can take these carbs in. So now so we've gotten to the point where we're in the northern part of Portugal, and so we need to cross this river into Spain. And so we actually stayed on the Portugal side overnight. That was sort of the normal stop. And so in the guidebook it says you got to take a water taxi across into Spain. And this is at Camino. And so this was the water taxi. I was envisioning we're going to have like a real ferry, like you might get on at when you're going from Vancouver to Victoria. No, it's a pontoon boat. And these are solar panels. It was actually run like one of those little trolling electric motors. And but hey, I think there was there must have been about 20 of us on this. Oh, and some of these youngsters were actually up in that upper deck. I'm a really good swimmer, but I was clutching to a life preserver on the lower level. And so this is us landing, going into Spain. And so you see this sort of like a hut there. There was no one there on the other side. And again, I guess this is part of the whole European Union thing where you can kind of freely go through borders. But I was wondering, again, you always got to show your passport to even take a room in a hostel. Here, we all just got off that boat, just walked up and then started up the path there. There was no one on the other side. You just started walking in Spain. That would just amaze me. I mean, I grew up in Boisville, in a border town. This crossing into another country and no one even cares. So terrain, more ocean. It actually got boring after a while along the ocean. Oh yeah, it's beautiful every day, every sight. So these are some of my friends. So this is Jim. Actually, we started walking together for a few days earlier. He was Albanian, living in Germany. So I called him my Albanian bodyguard. But
why was he bringing him?
That was interesting. He's a big basketball fan. Actually, played sort of semi-pro basketball in Germany. So I didn't know it until I put this picture in the slideshow today. I didn't realize he had that shirt. But and this I can't. This guy didn't speak any English, and so he was only at a couple stages. But for the rest of the way into Santiago, we bumped into these two, and they both spoke Spanish, but they didn't speak passable English. but they weren't together. They actually just sort of met on the Camino and just walked together, and because they both spoke Spanish. So again, more views. Oh, so this is so that stage when we're coming up, we're all heading toward the albergue, and even though my pictures aren't showing it, ever since Porto, there's a lot of people. Like, so many people start the Camino there. Like, there's a ton of people on the trail. And so when we got to the primary albergue, when Jim and I got there, there was no room. And so we had to go a little further, you know, up the road, and we stumbled across this place, and actually they had a ton of vacancies. So anyways, this, actually back up. So this is actually the view from our balcony of our room. It was like a 2-bed room, and yeah, with the you know, the ocean right up front. And this was, we went downstairs to the patio. This is where we had our dinner. Lovely meal, again, fantastic views. And then that's from our balcony at sunset. And so we left our balcony doors. Actually, when we first got there, the room was all closed up, and it was like an oven in there. It was just so stuffy. We just opened up the balcony doors and got some air moving. And then that night, I had the best sleep of my entire trip this night, with just the balcony doors open, the breeze coming in off the ocean, you know, the sound of the waves. It was amazing. Heading out the next day, some interesting. So we're coming into.
You don't like onions?
There was too many and they were too raw. That's a normal size plate, just to give you an idea of the size of this burger. Like, that's a full-size dinner plate, and the burger was just. But I only ate half of it, and then I ended up wrapping up like the other 2 quarters, and there were 2 other lunches that I got out of this one burger in this place, and I didn't realize what I was ordering. I just saw, you know, I was feeling like a burger at this place, and so I ordered this burger, and you know, and they all, wow. And so this is, yeah. So this is Fiona. She was a grade 1 teacher from Austin, Texas. And so we kind of bumped into her the day before, actually a couple hostels before, but she was always like traveling different place, different time. And then we, on this last leg into Redondela, she walked with us the one day. But her and Jim were really connecting, so I'm sure although he's from Germany, she's from Texas, but anyways. Again, that was still on our way into Redondela. Just some great views. Come on. Okay, so I took the coastal route, but I kind of did 2 stages in one day. Make some time. Actually, Jim was in a hurry because he had a deadline when he needed to be in Santiago. And so the plan was always to meet Rich and Danny here at Redondela. And so I got there a day early. So, you know, I took an off day, my second off day. And so, again, this is a ways down, lots of little cute cafes and pubs. And so I got to this one place, and the pub's actually off to the left. And it was this nice table, like it was right on the street, and it was beautiful, beautiful evening. And of course, Euro Cup's on, so I can, the open doorway, and there's a big TV, so I could see. I was watching the soccer match, but I was also sitting at this table, and then so there's the usual. Every time you get a beverage, there's always olives. This time, actually, peanuts. So I'm enjoying my beverage, and I'm watching the game. And I turn and I look, and almost all my peanuts are gone because there's a pigeon standing on my table feeding on it. So I try to shoo him away. He's really brash, and he only backs up back my table. So I get up, and I'm like, I'm not gonna hurt him here, but I'm taking it, I'm trying to wave him away. He just jumps back and stands on the back of that other table, the chair there, and then he's still making it look like he wants to get the rest of my peanuts. And so anyways, that's him. Then he was across the street eyeballing me the rest of the time because I got some food later. So the funny thing is, here I'm getting into it with this pigeon, and this lady's walking down the street, watches the whole thing. She's laughing at me as I'm like losing this fight with a pigeon. So we start off. Oh, took this picture. This is when I hit the 600 kilometer mark. I was and so this is the next hostel. It's like, once again, some of the places you stay were a little more current and modern, and so these little, I don't know what you call these little cubbies in some of the hostels became popular. I'm gonna move things along. Oh, so it's really interesting. Once you got into Spain, like earlier on, all the grapes, they were sort of the typical ones like you'd see like in the Okanagan Valley, like the lines of the bushes along the floor or along the ground, and you know, they'd be irrigated. But once we got into Spain, it was really popular that all the grapes are always on these trellises, about 5-6 feet tall. And in this particular instance, they had them. This is actually what you would call the outdoor seating at a cafe or restaurant, and then the canopy was just grapes growing. But this was, you didn't see them in the fields though. They had these long stretches of these trellises, and like all the grapes were done that way, where they were growing above and then hanging down so they could be picked. I don't know if it's just different strains. Raining a little bit, so people got the ponchos on. Things are wet, water's running. Come on, here we go. There's a big old cathedral. Come on. You losing me? Oh, okay. This was interesting. So behind that cathedral, this is, yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's, oh, I'm going the wrong way. They're actually like for caskets. Like it's not a columbarium, like they're mausoleum. There you go. Thank you for helping me out. Oh, come on. Did I wear out my battery? So now we're getting closer. Again, as you're getting closer to Santiago, the signs are getting fancier and much easier to spot. And you probably can't read that in here, but this is saying like 2.633 kilometers, so that's like 2.6 kilometers to the Compostela. Oh, I think this is a video. Will it start? No. Will that play? Can you get that to play? No. It's not playing? Anyways, this was actually a video. Oh yeah, there you go. No sound. It's been 30 days of walking since I landed in Lisbon. And those 30 days, I've walked. Oh, we weren't plugged in. 682 kilometers. And now we're coming up to point zero. I'm in Camino. And I believe this is it, right? Hey. So that's the Cathedral de Santiago de Compostela. So we're almost done here, folks. So this is the inside, and so this is really complex, and it's hard to capture in all the pictures, but there's actually places, walkways where you can go up and above this. So this is sort of like the front where they lead the worship, but you can actually take like a little tour thing, and you can actually walk through up in behind here and through this, but like this, like again, it's all gold and stuff. And you can also even go, so underneath, so there's another kind of like tunnel that goes sort of underneath, And then, so that's where they've got like the tombs of Saint James, as well as like the two disciples that were with him. And so, you got the sound on now? It might not be necessary, but because I do have another. Are you going to start for me? Can you just start the video? The sound isn't really necessary. So what they do every time, there's 3 services a day. There you go. And so these priests here, and so this is near the end of the service after communion, where they. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and it just fills the entire place with this, smell. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they really get this thing swinging. Like, it's pretty impressive when you're there. Like, I actually attended this service 3 times while I was there. The next time I watched it, I was sitting down in here and have that thing come. Like, it is incredibly tall in there, and they have this thing swinging like all the way up to the.
Can you go up in that way up there?
No, there's tours that you do, but people for the services, no one would be allowed up there. Paid tours.
What's the point? Bless everybody. Takes a lot of manpower.
Anyways, you get the crib coming up on 9 o'clock here. So again, some more pictures. Again, that's from the one preaching pulpit. And there, that's supposed to be St. James' sarcophagus there. And that's it. So anyways, I thought we would take a moment if there was any, like for a little Q&A for a couple of minutes. Like, I don't know if I talked enough. It's been 2 hours, I'm sorry. Didn't think it was going to be this long.
Were there not bugs?
Bugs?
When you had the doors open, did you?
No, like definitely not in the ocean. Yeah, like insects actually weren't, in a couple places. Again, like a lot of these albergues, again, it's very minimalistic, right? It's a bed. Sometimes there would be like a breakfast kind of thing, but mostly it was just a bed and a shower, and no air conditioning. But it would cool down at night, but the windows would be open. But there was a few times, like a couple places where kind of like my head under the covers because of my head, but for the most part there wasn't, and definitely not on the ocean. Like in the places along the ocean, no bugs. No. Oh, favorite place? Like to go back? I would love to spend more time in Coimbra. That was really fantastic. I'd like to see more there because we just stayed overnight. And Porto too is fabulous. I did get to spend about 5 days in Santiago, so I really got my fill there. But and you know what? And I just started walking right out of Lisbon. Like I hear Lisbon's a fantastic city, and I kind of walked around it, not through it. So yeah, like those I would love to check those out again. It varied, like, but usually I usually set my alarm at about 6, hoping to get moving by shortly after 7, by the time you sort of washed up and got packed up. The morning was like fairly ordeal. Like you'd always shower at the end of the day, in that respect you're ready to go. But you try to get a good jump, and it was a great question because especially when we got from Porto on, after like some of the big legs early stages were finished, when a lot of them were like 25 kilometers or less. Donna would call me when she got up, so there's a 7-hour time difference between Spain and Brandon, and so she'd be getting it. So I usually get a text at about 6:30, and she's like, "Good morning, honey," and I said, "Yeah, oh, it just landed at my albergue, like my day was over already, like at 1:30 in the afternoon, because if you got started early, you could knock down 25 clicks, by 1, 2 o'clock. But yeah, starting earlier in the day was nice, and then having the afternoon to relax, get your stuff. Great.
How many days were you out there in your trek?
So the actual Camino part, so it was 29 days to get from Lisbon to Santiago, and that was, and I took 2 rest days, so 27 days of walking, 682 kilometers.
How many pair of shoes did you have?
1 pair of shoes. Yeah, I know, again, weight's your enemy, so I had 1 pair of shoes and shower sandals, like shower flip-flops that were like super light, but that's it. The shoes out there are the ones I used. Yeah. Well, I don't know, so there's like, I've actually worn them a bit, like walking the dogs since I got back. If you look at the soles, there's some significant wear there. But yeah, so there's probably about, I'm guessing maybe, 1,200 kilometers on those. So yeah, I don't know how much we add up. Yeah, Al?
In a general sense, how close was the expectation to the reality?
Expectation to reality? Well, I think again, I talked to a lot of people, and I sort of knew what to expect. So part of it was exactly what I expected, but it was so different. Like from what it started out in Lisbon was so different than what is kind of advertised, which is more like Porto on, where it's much more civilized, like a lot more amenities, everything's closer together. You never had to worry about carrying extra water or extra food. There was always places to stop, but down in southern Portugal, like I said, that 4th leg, that was 33 clicks, and I thought I was gonna die because there was not even water to be had, so it was, yeah. So there was some additional things that weren't expected, but then a lot of things were, and so I didn't also realize that like walking like for 29 days, and when you're basically like, you get up in the morning, you pack up, you get something to eat, you walk, you eat along, you walk for the day, you land at the next place, you get cleaned up, you resupply, yeah, you have some social time, and usually asleep by, like, to be asleep at 8 o'clock or maybe 9 at the latest was really unusual. Like, you're tired. And so you're getting good sleep. But yeah, like that repetition, at least for someone like myself, like it really started, there was some monotony to it. Like, every day is the same, get up, walk, go to sleep, get up, walk, go to sleep. Yes, sir.
What type of oils did you use or cream did you use on your feet?
I didn't actually really apply anything to my feet. I used those socks that I have. I used 2 pair, and like in those shoes, and that's all I needed to do. But yeah, I had to use Voltaren on my shin splints, and yeah, I consumed probably too much acetaminophen. So not acetaminophen, ibuprofen. Ibuprofen reduces swelling. So yeah. You ever, there's a lot of time to think about your life. Like when you're only walking, like again, there's pictures of people that I walked with at times, but there was probably, I'd have to say, like probably it was about 50-50. 50% of the time I was sort of walking with a new friend, and 50% of the time you're by yourself. And even when you're walking with someone, sometimes there's just like quiet times, but there's a lot of days, a lot of steps. Someone asked me what was when the answer to that one leg was 55,270. Like I did the math calculation based roughly on that. That's like 1,030,000 steps that it took me from point A to point B, so there's a lot of time there that you're just walking with your thoughts, and then this is where the whole spiritual, development comes from, where you really got huge amounts of time to reflect and what you're doing with your life, what you need to be doing with your life, what you be talking about. Spend a lot of time thinking about what I might talk about here today. Yeah, what are you doing out there? And early on, yeah, when it got rough there, like day 4, I'm like, why, what the heck am I doing? Like, this is terrible. Like, you know what? And if it wasn't the expectation of like because this was kind of like I signed up to do for my sabbatical, so there's expectation that I actually do it. I might have thought about like getting on a bus and then finding an airport and going home. Like it was rough early on, but you know, once it got past that first week, you know, the second week was actually like really great until I hurt my shin, and then there was about a week that was awful, but then I actually healed. I recovered from it, and then it was good again. I'm glad I toughed it out. I'm glad I completed it. It was an awesome experience, I highly recommend it. Now, a common topic, like a lot of people that do these Camino, they do multiple ones. Like I showed in that map, like there's a lot of different trails. So there was people we talked to that done 6, 7 Caminos. Not to mention other kinds of pilgrimages elsewhere in the world. So there's people that are really into it, and people really said, "So are you going to do another one?" And I go, "No." And not that it was a bad experience; it was a great experience. But for me, it was kind of like, okay, I did it. You know, it was kind of like a bucket list, and now I will do something else off the bucket list. Like I've checked that box. Although what it has done is really opened up a love of like walking and hiking that I to a level that I didn't have before. Like I'm a lot more interested in checking out like some great trails that we have, like up in Riding Mountain and stuff like that. Like I want to do like a bunch of that, but like one-day trips, you know, 10K, 20K, you know, in a day, and then go home. So, yeah, Pat.
I thought that the number of times that you connected with people was really a relief, a support. And so my question is, are you continuing to connect with those people?
Absolutely, yeah. I still text or actually was WhatsApp is what I used to talk to Danny and Rich a lot. They were my closest friends with it, but Jim connected with since multiple times. But yeah, there's like I'd say probably a half a dozen people I'm continuing to connect with. But then I didn't even like as many pictures I just showed you, I'm terrible at taking pictures. There's so many events and things and people that I wish I would have taken pictures of that I didn't. But yeah, I met a lot of people, a lot of great people, but yeah, haven't and don't even know how to connect with them. So, well, if that's everything, I know there's some coffee and cookies up, and maybe it might be a little bit late for coffee, but I'll hang out by the table there if anyone wants to check that out or got any questions. You want to try on my pack? I have the pack packed to roughly an average of what it weighed when I was walking, if you want to try it on. And what else? And also my documents are there, my Compostela documents are there if you want, as well as my passport with all the stamps. So check them out. Thanks for coming.